And in my case, I've loved beer from the time I've been allowed to drink it. And I absolutely hated, with a vengeance, the fizzy, gassy, bland, harsh, bloating lagers that I was presented with in this country. And an English friend of mine introduced me to real ale. I don't know, how many of you drink ale here in the audience? Any hands? Fantastic, I love it. I love real ale. You try drinking it with Indian food. It's too heavy and it's too bitter. You try drinking fizzy lagers with Indian food. Well, I found the experience uncomfortable. Anyway, the restaurant owner could, I realized, have been selling me more beer and more food. And that's when this business idea developed. On my visits back to India to see my family, my father, who kept getting posted to different places in the army, who ended up as Commander-in-Chief of the Central Indian Army. And on these visits, there was no eureka moment. There was one moment I can remember when I was looking out over in the foothills, in the mountains near a hill station called Simla in the north of India, at a brigadier's house, visiting with my father on a holiday from England, looking out over these beautiful forests on this wooden deck. It was lunchtime and I had a chill glass of beer in my hand and I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my idea happen. I'm going to bring over my own beer from India that's called all the refreshing qualities of a lager, but smoother and less gassy, so that it will appeal to ale drinkers and accompany Indian food. There we are. Most ideas, business ideas, are pretty simple. The difficult thing is making them happen, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about. I knew nothing about brewing beer. I never manufactured beer before, or sold a bottle of beer. But this was my mission. I wanted to make the best ever Indian beer, and I wanted to create a global beer brand. Now, you can imagine that everyone I confronted with this idea basically said, hang on, you know, my parents for a start. And I'll never forget my father saying to me, what are you doing? You're going into business? All this education? And you're going to become an import-export walla. Get a proper job. Become a banker. Anyway, nothing wrong with being a banker. Of course, the brewery that a lot of luck comes into the story, and the brewery I was introduced to was the biggest independent brewery in India. They had the finest brewmaster in India, Dr. Karyappa, who had spent 6 years in the Czech Republic, the youngest person to get his PhD in brewing. The chemists, basically, you know, highly scientific, and he was very keen on the idea. The owner of the brewery is very keen on the idea. Everyone else in the brewery thought I didn't stand a chance. And quite frankly, if I'd gone to someone like McKinsey's and said, what chance do I stand? If I'd conducted Porter's 5 forces analysis, I would have failed every one of them. And any consultant would have said, look, don't waste your time, don't waste our time, don't waste your money, not that you have any. I was £20,000 in debt from my student days. My timing was great. The first container of Cobra Beer arrived in June 1990, and June 1990 is when the worst recession since the war started. I didn't know it then. So really, the odds were stacked against us. The biggest Indian beer brand in India, Kingfisher, had already been in the UK for 8 years before we started. They were already manufacturing in the UK for 5 years before we started. There were thousands of restaurants with Kingfisher draft fonts in them before we even started. And there were 9 or 10 other Indian beers trying to break into the market. And apart from that, you have the giant beer brands. Not only giant in size, not only giant in marketing spend, but many of them ancient. Stella Artois, founded in the 14th century. Cobra Beer founded just over 14 years ago. So it was all against us. And I found that in this situation, which I think every entrepreneur actually faces, is you're starting with your idea. Why is it that people finance you and supply you and buy from you when nobody knows you, nobody knows your brand? You have zero credibility. Your product has zero credibility. And I believe they do those things. If even when you're in that position, you're starting out from nothing, you have so much faith and belief and passion and confidence in your idea and your product, and that gives people the faith and the confidence to trust you.